Hello, mentors. Welcome to another webinar training presented by myself, Joey Hulst, who is the Refugee Mentor Coordinator, along with
Amanda Jones, who is with the Youth Services Mentoring Program.
So this is another training in the series produced by Education Northwest, and this one is specifically focusing on goal setting with your mentee. I know this can be a really valuable skill to develop within your mentoring relationship, so we're going to be talking in more detail about that today. So our goals for this session, first and foremost, we want to learn about the importance of goal setting. So why does this matter within your mentoring relationship? And is this really necessary? We will answer those questions for you shortly.
What it is, we're going to gain some goal setting skills, something that's like building on the strengths of your youth and immediate practice for long-term results. So talking about why it's important to have these skills and making sure that they're in the correct way.
Exactly. Third, we are going to learn about easy goal setting activities to use with your mentee. So we're going to have some practical ideas and activities that we'll go through in this session. And it doesn't have to be like pulling teeth. Like this doesn't have to be you sitting down and literally coming up with a list of goals with your mentee, because if there's no buy-in there, you're going to have trouble. So how can we easily incorporate goal setting into mentoring is something we're going to also address today.
Yeah, so why do I need to set goals? Well, it's an important part of your relationship. It's allowing you both to find something that you both are wanting to work towards through your year of mentoring. And it gives you guys things to do, ideas of things to do, as well as things to talk about.
Research says a lot about setting goals within mentoring relationships specifically. It says that mentees who set goals within mentoring are more successful in school, so it helps them focus their efforts in a specific direction in school and also just gives them motivation. It helps them make healthier choices, so planning and adapting to make better choices in various areas of their lives. It helps create and form better relationships with your mentee and your mentee's relationship. So it helps you within your relationship reach a new level, and then you can actually see and measure progress in some form within the mentoring relationship.
It gives you the ability to practice in safe settings. So a lot of people set goals, but it's not necessarily always the right way, or it's not necessarily going to be something that's going to actually be able to be reached. And so in order to set these goals, you're being able to practice doing so in a safe setting.
So in a way that is your mentee is not feeling hurt if you don't reach the goals, or they don't feel like a failure, but you can help encourage them to reach goals in a healthy way.
Exactly.
And then lastly, we want to help the youth recognize their skills and strengths. So obviously this is something you want to be doing in your mentoring match all along, is to emphasize the strengths and abilities of your youth. And then also you're able to address this in a suitable setting. And often this can go unsaid otherwise. So, you might recognize in your youth that maybe they're really talented at drawing, or maybe they're a really good student and they excel in their math classes. And that's something you notice, but you don't always think to bring that up with them and to remind them, hey, like you're really good at this. I think this is something you could pursue. So being able to highlight the skills and the strengths of your youth as well.
Yeah, so think of a goal you've achieved with your mentee. Some examples of these are
working on homework and studying together to raise an English grade. So let's say your mentee is struggling at school, so you establish a specific goal in a specific class to help them reach a certain level. So let's say they're getting a C in their English class, and you're like, together we're going to work on this and we're going to raise you up to a B. And then once you reach that goal, maybe you'll set another goal of being an A.
Is maybe you are wanting to have the youth apply to 2 jobs a month. Maybe that's something that they're wanting, is to have a job. They've never had one. They think that would really help their income. It would allow a little bit of an ease on their lifestyle, and so they're wanting to get this job, but they don't know how. They've never gone through it before, or they've applied to one place before and it didn't work, and so then they figured like that's just it. That's how it's going to be. This allows you to hold them accountable, and you guys can also do these things together when applying for the jobs.
One, a career one, and here's one for your match specifically. Try 3 new activities that neither of us had done yet. So obviously this is to do with your mentoring match. If maybe it's seeming a little stale or you're not connecting very well, try to set a goal for the match specifically that helps you branch out of your comfort zone, in this case by trying new activities that neither of you had done.
Another one is, saying that maybe your mentee is wanting to exercise more. In order to achieve that goal, you have to start somewhere, and that's how it is for anybody that wants to start exercising that isn't used to it. You have to start somewhere. So you guys could set a goal where your mentee is going to exercise at least 1 hour every day for a whole week. This allows you the chance to hold them accountable, to check in with them to make sure that they're doing this. And maybe it also is going to push you to be like, hey, yeah, I will exercise with you at least 1 hour every day for a whole week as well. Just this way, though, you're starting somewhere and you're going to eventually reach the goal of where they no longer need you to be holding them accountable for it.
And then our last example has to do with maybe your mentee is having behavioral issues and they're coming to you getting in trouble at school. So you set the goal of mentee did not get detention at school for being tardy for a whole month. So in this specific case, say your mentee keeps getting detentions because they're tardy to their classes. You set the goal, okay, let's see if in a whole month you can go without getting a detention from being tardy, and then brainstorm potential solutions of how they can reach that goal. So different, skills like setting an alarm to get to their classes, or making sure they're not spending too much time talking to friends in between classes, things like that. So those are just some examples of some specific goals that you could set with your mentee. But we also want you to think back on your match and to think about what are some goals that I have talked about with my mentee that we have either worked on or achieved together. We're going to do a little activity now. It's called Defining a Vision for the Future. So this is designed for adults, so you can do this for yourself to get an idea of what goal setting looks like, or this can be used with an older, probably more mature mentee. So you guys will be the best judge of that. And then later we're going to go over some modified activities to do with younger youth. So if you're mentoring an older teen, or if you want to just kind of reflect personally on goal setting, this is going to be an activity that you can use. So the first step is to create a strengths index card. So I have just an example of one here. So the name in the middle would be your own name or the name of your mentee if you're doing it with them. And then you come up with 4 traits that you see as strengths for yourself, or even just qualities that you like about yourself. Sometimes it may be hard for your youth to recognize something in them as a strength, but they might know that they're good at it. So they might like art a lot, or they like, they like drawing. So then you could put that as being, an artist or creative, could be an example of that. So you can do this activity along with this webinar if you want, and pause it as we're going to do these steps, or you can just watch the whole thing through and then do this later and refer to the webinar on your own as a reference.
So then step 2 is envisioning your future. So this is where you're asking either themselves or even you, if you're doing it for you, where do you want to be in the next 5 years? Where do you want to be in the next 10 years? This allows you to start really thinking about what you're hoping to accomplish in the near future, or in this future that is a little bit a ways away. An example would be, if the youth is saying they're in high school, they're hoping to get their grades up so that they can attend college. So an example would be, I want to go to college, and I want to learn about medicine. I want to be a nurse or a doctor. I want to work with elderly people to help them feel better. So this is allowing the youth to set a goal of they're wanting to go to college. It tells them what they're interested in, so they have an idea of what it is that they're hoping to study while in college, as well as what their ultimate goal is, which is their career, and that was, either being a nurse or a doctor.
And they may not even see this as goal setting when you're going through the activity, because you can leave it pretty open for them just to visualize, like, what do you want your future to be like? And then we're going to bring it into how can we set goals to work towards it. But you can definitely see what those goals are going to be, even just when you're thinking about the vision for the future. So the third step is to establish short-term goals to reach those classes. So we want to think of 3 short-term goals for this example that we're still talking about. So wanting to go on to medical school and hopefully to work with people in that field. So goal number 1 could be get all A's and B's in my classes, because medical school is rigorous and you know that you're going to need to have a good GPA in high school to go on to a good medical school. Number 2, start learning about colleges and what I need to do to get ready. So even just taking those initial steps of doing some research, what colleges look interesting to me, what have programs that I'm interested in. And then number 3, read books about the medical field. So just start maybe reading stories of other doctors or nurses, learning about different positions, things that interest you in order to decide, oh, maybe that is something I want to pursue, or no, that actually doesn't sound that fun to me. So these 3 goals that I have here, they're definitely goals, but they're not necessarily what we would call SMART goals. So if you've heard of that acronym before, you want to make goals that are very practical and realistic. So the SMART acronym stands for specific, agreed upon, realistic, and time-based. So how could we make those more of SMART goals? It could be something, it would need to be more specific and time-based. So get all A's and B's in my classes would need to turn into something like get an A in English class by the end of the semester, like if they don't have an A already or something like that. So once again, SMART goals: specific, measurable, agreed upon, realistic, and time-based. So that time-based one is setting a limit or a time when it needs to be done by. So thinking about that when you're thinking of the short-term goals is going to be important. And if you guys want any more resources to do with SMART goals, I would just go ahead and Google that. There's a ton of research out on that, and it's very easily accessible.
Yeah. Step 4, goal activities. So this is something that you would do together, where you can think of a thing that you're going to do in order to help accomplish that. And like what Joy was saying with the SMART goals, it also is asking you to be pretty specific about what the activity is going to be and when it's going to be accomplished and how often you're going to do it. So one of the examples, going along with the exact same one, example we've been using is activity 1, study and do homework with my mentor at least once a month. They're hoping to accomplish this every month starting January 1st. Second activity is look up colleges in the area and what programs they have. So this is going to allow the youth to start thinking about where they're wanting to go to school, which school has the best program, which school is something that they could afford to go to, all of these big things, which are really important in order to make it a realistic goal. And again, they have the accomplished date of February 10th. And then the last activity is visit a nursing home and talk to a manager about work there. So this can even allow the youth to see if that's even actually something that they're interested in doing, because a lot of times we set these goals of careers that we're wanting to have, and then once you start them, you realize quickly that it's not what you thought it was going to be, or it's not something that you are actually interested in. This allows the youth to go see firsthand what it's like to work in a nursing home, as well as they could even maybe potentially get some type of a job there. You never really know. So activities, it's allowing them to make realistic goals, as well as holding them accountable for when they're hoping to have these accomplished by.
Step 5 of our activity, planning for potential barriers. So this is a really important part of goal setting that I think can sometimes be easy to miss, because we tend to want to just think about, oh, how can we get there? But we don't necessarily think about the things that might get in our way. But that can really backfire on you if you haven't thought about barriers, and then something comes up and you feel like hopeless, or like, oh, I'm never going to get that far because this one little thing took me down. So thinking about barriers beforehand can be really helpful. So in this example, barrier 1, classes get hard, or I get busy with other activities. That is definitely true, and that could prevent you from getting A's and B's in classes. So then thinking of barriers, and then thinking of a preventative step. So what can I do, even if that barrier arises, what can I do to address that and get over that barrier? So a preventative step for that would be schedule my time so that I do homework and study 1 to 2 hours every night. So let's say it's from 7 to 9 p.m. You don't allow yourself in the weekday to schedule any other thing besides I'm going to be doing homework in that time. That way, even if you do have other commitments, you know that they won't overlap with that time, and you'll do your best to keep it that way. Second barrier, I can't get into the college I want. Also, this is a very realistic thing that could happen. So a preventative step for that, I will attend community college to raise my grades and prepare to transfer to another college. So even if they didn't get into the school that they wanted, that doesn't mean that they suddenly can't pursue their interest in going to the medical field or working in a nursing home or something like that. But there are alternative ways to still reach that goal. So to think about that by saying, okay, well, I can do community college for a few semesters and then transfer into a higher level college. Barrier 3, I don't have enough money for college. This can be something that could really discourage a youth as they face the reality of high costs for college. So what can they do about that? A preventative step could be, I will work hard to get good grades for scholarships and work part-time in high school. So maybe if they get good enough grades, they'll qualify for scholarships that will pay for the majority of their college. Or if they work part-time in high school, they can already be setting aside money so that they won't have to take out as big of loans when they go to college. So by thinking of these barriers and preventative steps, you can avoid your youth falling into any sort of despair or giving up whenever they face challenges when they're working towards their goals.
Step 6 is reflection. And so this is the part where you are wondering, what did you learn from all of this? What have you learned by setting these goals? Was it as easy as you thought it was going to be to get to medical school? It allows the youth to really sit back and think if that's something that they're still wanting to even do, or if they're wanting to go in a different direction. It's allowing you as the mentor the opportunity to kind of be a little bit of a guide there and helping them figure out everything that they learned, because they may not even realize some of the things that have happened are actually benefiting them in the long run. How have you changed since working on your goals? So you're seeing the youth in a different way now. You're seeing that they are setting these goals and they're reaching them, maybe, or maybe they're not. And this allows the youth to realize, hey, you know, I set all these goals, but I'm not doing anything to reach them. Maybe that's why I'm not accomplishing as much as I'd like. Or maybe that's why medical school seems so far away, is because I'm not where I need to be. And it's the way of saying, hey, I've really increased my studying time. I've been doing way better in school. I have really grown an interest in doing this, this, and this. And it's because of my goals that I've set.
So that's a reflection on the goals themselves. And then this example here is a reflection on the activity too. So they're both tied hand in hand. So the person reflecting on this activity might say something like, I learned there are lots of steps to reach my goals. This helped me think about the people who can help me and how I can start now to remove obstacles from my path. I can see that I will need to work hard to reach my goals and I can't be lazy. This has motivated me to start now. So if they're reflecting about this activity, they can kind of see, okay, I have a long way to go and there are a lot of steps and I do need to start now. So the additional motivation that can come with the reflection. Talk a little bit about adapting goal setting for your mentee, whether that's a younger mentee or maybe you just think that going through the written plan or reflection may not be what your mentee wants to do. It may be too boring. They might not want to create that little strengths card for themselves. So what can we do? We can definitely be creative and have fun with goal setting. Think about what engages your youth and what might be something that they're interested in that will grab their attention to think about with goal setting. And then brainstorm activities to do together. Definitely don't make this something about you. Obviously, this is about your youth. So together, think of activities that they could or may want to do in regards to goal setting.
And then some.
So we're going to talk a little bit about.
Sorry about that, everyone. I feel like it's a Monday.
Yep, it definitely is not, but it feels like one. Let me make sure I didn't skip over anything. Yep, we're good. Okay, so we're going to talk about defining strengths with your mentee.
Yes. So in order to figure out what their strengths are, you need to have this conversation. You need to ask them what it is that they like about themselves. Some of the youth have maybe never thought about the things that they enjoy about themselves or that they like about themselves. As humans, sometimes we forget that we also need to find things that we like in ourselves rather than just in other people. So this allows you guys to have an opportunity to have this conversation that's pretty it's pretty important, just in the fact that it's going to allow you guys to become closer, and the fact that you're kind of pushing them to figure out what it is that makes them somebody that they like. Another thing that you're going to talk about is what special qualities do you see in your mentee. So maybe this is an opportunity where you can talk to them about, hey, you know, I think that you are really good at talking to other people, or I think that you are very intelligent and are really focused in school. I think that you have a really good work, you have a hard-working ethic, that you like to work hard, that you go a little bit above and beyond. So this also gives them an opportunity to maybe get some praise that they have maybe never heard before or have forgotten, and will maybe open up their eyes and being able to see that they do have all these qualities and these are all things that they should like about themselves.
should have prefaced this earlier, but these are all examples of how you can modify that initial activity of goal setting with like a younger youth or with a youth who you think wouldn't like to just do that worksheet. So as we go through, you're going to see that these are more specific examples for modifying that initial activity. So for example, in our category of defining strengths still, you could do a strengths bingo card, which it would be to create a bingo game made of the mentee's strengths. So this would obviously be for a younger youth. So you would think of all the good characteristics or like things that they like or enjoy or are good at, and create a bingo card of it and play that together. And then it gives them an opportunity to just highlight their strengths and to recognize, oh, these are things that I'm good at or I'm really interested in, or things that people see in me. And that can just be a really encouraging thing for them to think about, and maybe it will help them hone in on some of their interests.
Another one is creative writing. So in order to figure out what their strengths are, they can maybe write a rap, write a poem, write a song about their strengths, or just write down in a journal some of the things that they think that they're really strong in. This allows them to both create it and then share what they think, because sometimes it's hard to just think on the spot or to just have that conversation. And so maybe this is a way for them to express what they like about themselves and what their strengths are.
And that's definitely something that you could do with your mentee as well, if you did that along with them. So did whatever creative writing, and then shared it together. That can be a way to encourage them to be more open as well. So then step 2 in this modified version of goal setting with your mentee is, once again, envisioning your future. So some activities that you could do with your youth. One would be creating a life map. So maybe you've seen these before. You can draw them out on a big poster board, or you can just draw them on a piece of paper. You can make it really colorful and fancy, or you could just do it simply with pen and paper or pencil or whatever. But it would look like basically a map, and all the milestones along the way would be things like, what job do you have? When will you have a family? Different dreams you have of visiting different places, or, going to an NBA game, all these different things. So you create this whole kind of timeline in the form of like a roadmap of all these different things that they want to accomplish. So what does this map look like? How does the mentee get there? So you spend some time creating that together. You let the mentee do that, and you could do your own, and then you share it together again.
Another one is the time traveler letter. I really encourage this. I've actually have done it a few times growing up. And it's always fun to read later on, and see where you were at a few years beforehand. So the purpose of this is you write a letter or the youth would write a letter to themselves as a grown adult 5 to 20 years later than their age that they're at right now. In that letter, they're telling them how things have changed. They're seeing from a perspective of having achieved their dreams. So this is allowing them to write where they're at right now in their life, where they're hoping to be, what they're hoping to have happen in their life. And then, say they send it to themselves 10 years from now. 10 years later, they're going to read it, and hopefully they're going to be accomplishing everything that they had on that letter, or they're going to see that life took them in a totally different direction, which may not even be a bad thing, but it took them in a different direction, and they can laugh about what their dreams were, because maybe they weren't setting realistic goals, and then looking at it now, they're going to be like, whoa, yeah, I had to do a lot more than to get to there. So it is a pretty cool experience to be able to have a time traveler letter.
Our third step, again, is establishing short-term goals. So some of the activities you could do with your youth, the first one might be build a tower. So how is this related? We will see at the end. So you could use newspaper, cardboard, tape, or other supplies, basically anything you have, wooden blocks, anything, to build a tower together with your mentee. And then have the mentee define the goals for the tower. So how tall is it going to be? How wide? What will it look like? Are you going to decorate it? Is it going to be a certain style? And then after you've built this tower, so the mentee sets the goals for what the tower is going to look like, and you build it as best as you can, you talk about how this activity can relate to personal goal setting. So maybe they really wanted to do this epic castle, and it was going to be so fancy and really decorated, but then as you were going, it was really hard and nothing turned out the way you want it to be. And so you can talk about setting realistic goals and how maybe creating a 40-foot tall castle out of newspaper was not very realistic. And so even a fun little activity like building something together can turn into a conversation about goal setting.
Yeah, another one that you could use, another little game you could use in order to establish short-term goals is to actually play a game and discuss the goals before and as you play. So you're gonna go and play the game. So you're gonna set some goals right away. You know, which pawn you're gonna be. What blacks you hope to own. Do you hope on getting some monopolies? What different places are you hoping you don't hit, or how many houses are you hoping to grab? Those types of things, and those are all also things that you can talk about while you're playing the game. It's going to be much bigger than just winning. Try to make it more involved with the setting the goals rather than just having them win. So making sure that they're having fun. You're going to make sure that that is a goal that's set right away, obviously. Another goal could be that you're going to be respectful during the game. You're not going to get upset if somebody else has a piece that you wanted. You're going to ask questions. So you're going to see what it is that they can do or how you can help them get to what they were setting their goals for earlier. They're developing strategy, so they're looking around and seeing what it is that they're going to have to do in order to reach those goals and trying to figure out a way to go about doing so.
And then you're going to want to make sure that you reflect after the game. So did they accomplish the goals they set? I mean, obviously, the first thing they're going to want to say, if you're playing a game, it could be any game, Monopoly, cards, anything. They're going to say that they want to win. So did they accomplish that? Maybe yes or no. But then talk about also the smaller goals that they set. In the Monopoly example, did they get the territories or the whatever they're called? Did they get them the ones they wanted? Or did they have as many hotels as they wanted? But then also if you set some more kind of big picture goals, like did they have fun when they played the game? Were they able to maintain and be respectful during the game, or ask questions when they were in trouble or weren't really sure about what to do? So did they accomplish those goals? And then how can they apply this to school, home, or relationships? So obviously you could just reflect about the game itself and that could be fun, but you also want to tie this into the bigger picture. So even saying something as simple as, hey, like you did a really good job of setting goals for this game. And I think that's something that we could do for you when it comes to school or when it comes to your life at home. And then maybe be able to start a conversation about specific goals based on, different situations that your mentee is facing.
Step 4 is goal activities. So plan a day together. In that day, you're going to say, what are we going to do with our time? So what is it that we're hoping to do throughout the day? You're going to have your mentee be a tour guide and create a schedule for the day. So if they're anything like me, we like to have a schedule. We like to know what we're doing, when we're doing it, and how long we're going to do it for. So have your youth do that. Have them tell you where you're going to go. Have them tell you what you're going to do at this certain time and how long you're going to be doing that until you do the next thing. Discuss different activities and when they're going to happen. So again, you're adding that into the schedule. You're figuring out what it is that you're going to be doing and how long you're going to be doing it for. Yeah.
So you could do something, so that would be like planning a fun outing together. Another thing you could do would be to plan a service project. And then this would be something you would want your mentee to initiate also again. So thinking about what community or area needs help. So maybe your mentee has noticed that their neighborhood has a lot of trash all over the sidewalks, or in a specific park that they go to, it has a lot of trash. So maybe you decide that that's something you want to address. So then setting the activity to do and a date for it. Making that a SMART goal, a very attainable and time-measured, time-sensitive goal by setting that specific date. So don't just choose something random either. Choose an area that your mentee is interested in so that you have that buy-in, and then you can plan it together, but also let the mentee initiate that.
Yeah. Step 5, planning for potential barriers. So things are going to come up. So use sports and games to highlight this. How do you prepare for a big game? What is it that you do to get you really hyped before you go out and play? What don't you do? Why do you make specific moves in a game? So one might be, if you're playing soccer and you always seem to go to the right, why is it that you're always going to the right? Why is it the right side that you're always wanting to be on? Besides the fact that might be where your position's at. This is something you can talk about. Like, why don't you try going towards the left, or why aren't you more in the middle, kind of a thing. Those types of things. What techniques do you use? So asking them, why is it that you have touched the ball, for dribbling purposes in soccer? I don't know if anyone knows, but, touching the ball with your feet. Why is it that you're constantly doing that rather than kicking it to somebody else? Or why aren't you passing it? Or why, you're discussing what the different techniques that you're using, and why is it that you're using those rather than trying something else?
So thinking about barriers that would arise in any sort of game. So yeah, the soccer example is a good one. So what are potential barriers from reaching your goals in a specific game like soccer? Like winning, what could prevent you from winning, or what could even prevent you from excelling in your position? It could also be a game like we said, like Monopoly, and planning for potential barriers in that. So another example is discuss challenges when planning outings. So a lot of the time it falls on mentors to do a lot of the preparation for outings. So a way to easily talk about goal setting can be to have your mentee be completely in charge of planning an outing. So for instance, maybe your mentee says, let's go to the park and spend an afternoon at the park and then go get ice cream. Well, talk about, okay, what barriers do we need to think about in our plan? So what happens if I go to pick you up and it's pouring and we don't want to go to the park anymore? What are we going to do? What if this could still be part of the same day or another outing, but what if our favorite restaurant is closed? Or maybe when you went to go get ice cream after the park, it was closed. What could you do in that circumstance? And how can you prepare for any sort of changes in plans, whether that's your car breaks down when you guys are halfway there, or your mentee has to go home early, or you have a sudden something come up that you have to leave early. So helping them think through even just the small details of when you're planning an outing, that there could be things that could come up, and it's good to have backup plans and that sort of things.
Step 6 is the reflection portion. And so with that, you are, maybe you want to make a mentoring portfolio. So in there, you're adding pictures and descriptions of your activities. This is allowing you guys to either look back and be like, hey, this was a really great day. We had a really good time. Or you're like, that was horrible. Nothing worked out that day. We'll never do this again. But either way, you have something to look back on, and you can reflect on that. You're documenting the growth that you've had. So maybe your very first time ever meeting, you put in there, we barely talked. It was really uncomfortable and awkward. You're putting in there, we can't stop talking. We want to hang out longer than what the time we have. We want to keep doing all these different things together. You're writing goals and marking when you've achieved them. This is really important because this allows you to also keep track of what it is that you guys are hoping to accomplish and when you're wanting to achieve them. And it's always fun to cross something off your list.
Mm-hmm. Another idea is ask your mentee to keep a journal so they can write out the activities that you guys do together. So it could be just, the date, what you did, and then their reflection. Did they enjoy it? Were there times that it was awkward? Were there things they wish you would have done differently? Or maybe they didn't like it at all, or maybe they loved it and they want to do it again. Also, they can reflect on lessons they learned and goals that they have. So maybe on a specific outing, maybe you guys went to the park and they had a really great time, but they kind of got into an argument with another kid on the playground or something like that, and maybe they learned the lesson about being respectful, or being able to rein in your anger when you're mad at someone for stealing your swing or something like that. So to reflect on even those small things that they may have learned during an outing, and then also think about future goals that they could.
Have a conversation. So talk about what your mentee's growth has been. Encourage them. Be like, hey, you've been doing really awesome. Remember when you were at this point in your life, and now look at you. This allows them to also be like, yeah, I was at this part of my life, and now look at where I'm at. You can talk about what has changed, what is still the same, what are you hoping to continue to do again, what hasn't changed, what's different. All these things are really important, and in order to have that conversation, you need to make sure that you're also keeping track of what's going on. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to be like, yeah, I think we talked about this before, or I think that we set this goal, but I'm not too sure if you've reached it now.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and debrief this training. First and foremost, goal setting, clearly from all the slides we've just been through, is a really important part of mentoring. So with the examples we did, both with the one that you could use for yourself or for an older mentee, and then the modified one with all the different activities you could do with a younger mentee, This can really change your mentoring relationship and the mentee's life if you help them. First, you start with goals for your own mentoring relationship and how can we get to know each other better? How can we have more fun? What can we do differently that will make it more fun? And then you can also build off of that and go into other areas of the youth's life, like how can we set goals for school? How can we set goals for the home life? And teaching your mentee how to set goals in general is really important.
Participation in this training is going to help prepare you, the mentors, for challenges and techniques for goal setting. So I would definitely recommend practicing some of the tools and activities that we had throughout this webinar. It allows you to become familiar with them, and if you ever were wanting to use them with your youth, you're going to be a little bit more natural when explaining what it is that you're doing and why it is that you're doing them.
And then lastly, you as mentors can improve goal setting in your youth through a variety of interactive and fun activities. So there were a lot of different examples of activities you could use in this webinar. So feel free to go back, look at this video and scroll back through it to find the ones that you maybe caught your ear as you were listening and you thought, oh yeah, I think my mentee would connect with that. Or feel free to share with us more ideas if you have any of how to, either highlight your strengths with the youth or to think about goal setting in a fun way. This doesn't have to be boring. You definitely want to tailor these activities to suit the interests and the likes and dislikes of your youth. So make this as fun as possible. Goal setting doesn't have to be, like we said, doesn't have to be sitting down and just writing a big list together. We want to make this as interactive and fun as possible.
Love to have some feedback from you guys. We want to know if this training was helpful at all in setting goals. I know that it can be something that's pretty hard to think of things to do, and so hopefully with all of these ideas and activities, it was helpful. So let us know. You can either comment below or email Joy, Kelly, or myself.
And like I said in the previous slide, if you have any other goal setting activity ideas, please feel free to let us know. So like we just said, email or comment. But we would love your input since there's over 100 mentors in all 3 of our programs together. I'm sure you guys have some ideas of what could be useful and fun in goal setting.
And a way to do that is by telling us your own experience with goal setting while mentoring. So if you could, send us an email giving us an experience that you've had with this, whether it was a struggle or it was a success, we'd love to hear about it. And then that way we can also maybe use that as an example for, this is what they did and this is how well it worked, kind of a thing.
Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Sorry, it got a little bit rough there in the middle. We do our best to have these as organized as possible, but it was a long PowerPoint, so we got a little tied up in there, but we appreciate you sticking with us. Just a reminder again, this training was created by Education Northwest. The author of this training, Goal Setting with Your Mentee, is Christian Rummel, so thanks for creating this. There's our contact information if you have any specific questions for us or if you'd like to share your examples of goal setting activities. We would love to hear from you. Thanks so much, everybody.